Okay.
Does
Oh,
someone
I think I'm in the wrong place.
want to give a opening prayer?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Sweet.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this day and we're grateful for all of our many blessings and also for this opportunity we have to meet now as classmates and ask you to please be with us that we may be able to understand the things that we have studied and be able to talk about them in an intelligent way and get things prepped so that we can get our assignment turned in. These things we have to pray for, Father, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay.
Where's it? Here we go.
I'm on the
Instructions.
assignment. These are like hard cases to understand. I don't know if it's just because it's like all this internet stuff I don't understand.
Yeah.
What?
Trying to see. Choose case. Okay. There was only one thing I wasn't understanding, but we won't get to that till the end. I don't think. But let's see. All right, so we're supposed to discuss this table, right? Gosh, I did all this on. When did I do this? I did this on Monday while we were driving up to Utah. So I'm trying to remember what this cloud. Oh, so Cloudflare, if I'm understanding this, Cloudflare was just a kind of a web service that provided security as far as speed for websites. Does that sound about right? Is that what you guys got
Yeah,
out of this?
and to keep like hackers or people from taking information from them without permission, I guess. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
security help for websites.
Okay, now I'm trying to remember what all these stand for. I know the GTMs go to market. What's the CVP?
You can Google it.
Isn't that cash value proposition?
Cash what? Cash value or customer value proposition. Yeah. What's the TOM?
Probably something of market.
Target operating model.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, it must be. And then CFF. I forget stuff easily.
From financing.
What capital from financing?
Cash flow from financing.
Oh, cash flow from financing. Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm totally brain farting right now. Let's see. Was this the case study where he didn't really have to use a lot of money in the beginning, or am I confusing it with another case that we did last week?
I want to say you're correct.
We had a couple of seed rounds, so I'm thinking they used quite a bit of money.
Oh, is it that he doesn't have more money?
They didn't really talk about raising money. You just mentioned a seed B round that they raised like 20 million. So if they had a seed B, they had at least a seed A.
Oh yeah, you're right. They started fundraising kind of at the beginning. I must just be confusing with total another. That's the thing. These all start running together.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just case after case. I'm totally confusing all of these.
Especially when you have 2 a week.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I've got a question, like, and maybe this is a bad question to ask. Do we want to go through these things, or do we want to go through what we're actually going to have to do,
I almost suggest I go through the assignment.
like what we actually have to do?
Yeah.
What do you think, Marshall?
Sorry, can you say that again?
I was just saying, do we want to go through all of these questions, or do we kind of want to skip to what we actually have to do for an assignment?
No? Well, I mean, I know we have to do this table as a group and turn it in, but
Do we have to turn in the table?
yep.
Oh, I thought it was just individually you turned it in at the beginning of the week.
No, it says use an actual spreadsheet and turn it in after the discussion on number 4.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think it's different. No, that's different from that.
Okay.
But gosh, looking at the cash flow, why am I? Swear I'm remembering the other one better than this one, the rent juice. Let's see. Okay, so what was the actual? Oh, okay. I'm remembering some things now. They were having. I remember this was the company that, yeah, they only had like a 4% conversion rate from customers that went, that signed up for the free subscription that went to go to the premium.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I kind of remember. Man, what I should do is pull up what I wrote for.
I was like, maybe it's just me, but I don't remember a lot about these questions that they're talking about. But
Okay, well, the key elements of their customer value proposition we kind of hit on a little bit, right? Which was providing that security, and as a community, making their customers a community. Their algorithms would learn from different things that would happen to others to provide even better security. Like when they even provided, I don't know what you want to call it, web hosting or whatever for that hacker company that ended up, helping their algorithm even more because people were trying to hack the hackers or whatnot. Do you remember what I'm talking about there? And then, they're obviously providing a quick value that people in signing up with them, it's only a 5-minute process, and then they get that accelerated web speed as well as the security. Okay, now I'm remembering more of this. Okay, organization. I thought their go-to-market was fine. Like, they seem to be growing at a quick pace, even just from the word of mouth. They haven't done a lot of advertising. If they actually did spend some money on the advertising, they would do even better. I think my whole beef with them was their organization. This was the place that was like really lax, right? Nobody had a title and all that kind of stuff. But then people started leaving the company because they were too stressed out with the hours and all that kind of stuff. Am I remembering the right thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what did you say CFF was? Cash cash flow formula?
No.
Cash flow from financing.
From financing. That's right. I could be remembering wrong, but it seemed like they were raising plenty of money. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, in fact, I think that was one of the things we had to do. Didn't we have to write some spreadsheet or something that showed their, or maybe I did. I did a spreadsheet showing their financials. Because it was based off that extra video that we watch. Did you guys see that other video?
I totally forgot to watch that, actually.
So there were two different videos. One was just like the main guy. What was his name? Whatever his name is, the owner of it. He's like on some business, like a Fox Business or CNBC or whatever, describing the value of his company. That was one of them. And then the other one was a guy teaching us how to come up with a spreadsheet that shows, let's see, I wonder if I can pull it up because I can describe it better. Pod for profit exhibit. So, give me one sec. Okay. So this thing is, how do I share my screen? And I'll share it real quick just to show you.
So down bottom in the middle, there should be a share screen button.
Okay.
And then you just should click on the screen that it asks you to share. Yep, there you go.
All right, can you see that? Okay, so over here, he just shows you how to make this table here. And so you're entering the number of subscribers or whatever your numbers are. And I thought it was kind of a cool little table to have. Their conversion rate technically was at 4%?
Yeah.
And so being at 4%, and it even, and you have to figure out what their monthly subscription is, and so what the annual revenue is per subscriber, and then number of full-time employees they have and the cost of those full-time employees and the variable cost. That was all in those numbers were given to us in the case. And so when you total all that up, they were operating at a negative profit, and so the two things I thought they were bad at that needed to change. So this kind of goes with that table that we're looking at, is if they just, because 4% is pretty low, if they even doubled it to 8%, their conversion rate, and spent time hiring people that could work on that conversion, it changes their profit, from negative 3 million to positive 1.75, so it's
Well, and wasn't this one the one that said that if they even just sent one email out to all of their customers, then they would to ask them to upgrade, they would probably be able to make that change?
Yeah. So and that's the thing is, I'll stop showing this now. So that was the thing was, between their organization and, I don't want to say necessarily lack of advertising, but they're not advertising at all. If they were to do those things, their cash flow would be, way different from where it's at, and they're even doing pretty well, all things considered. But so this number 4.
Honestly, I think what they do is they just literally copy and paste the questions that we do by ourselves and put them in for the group discussion.
You mean in the assignment portion?
So the assignments that we have to turn in individually.
Yeah.
It's almost exactly the same as our group discussion.
Well, real quick on number 4, do you guys have any idea what that would? Trying to think of how to. Well, those are. I mean, they show us what their expenses are and stuff. I don't know that I saw a place. I mean, they showed us the numbers like that I had in that spreadsheet just now, or that mini spreadsheet. I don't recall seeing something else. Do you guys?
No.
And I don't recall there being like a I mean, so that, yeah, there isn't some like, okay, business tour. That's a service house. Yeah, if they're just going to hire more people without changing their conversion rate or their advertising or something like that, I don't know that we can figure out how to become profitable.
I guess maybe that's what they were saying is like what we would have to do, because I guess that's what goes with the table in number 1 is like what we would change in each of those things.
Well, number 4 almost seems like something different from that. Because they just go into the cash flow formula. Suppose we have to hire more engineers in direct proportion to how we scale. How long will it take to become profitable? Well, if they hire more, it's going to take them even longer to become profitable unless they make other financial changes. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm reading that wrong, but I don't recall seeing something else in the case study other than those numbers that you saw me input on the spreadsheet.
We can just go to the next question then.
All right. Well, why does Cloudflare management want to get big fast? What benefits does Cloudflare receive from scale?
Well, are they the ones with the, no, that's not, that's the other case study.
Were you talking about the other company to compete with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Rent Juice.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason I would think that they would want to get big fast is to become profitable, because if they're able to get more customers that actually pay and everything, and they're able to up their revenue, then I feel like they'd be able to have a better employee group, because they'd be able to either hire more people if they need to or pay them better or whatever so that they work well, and then they'd be able to become profitable from that. I mean, I don't know any other reason to become big fast.
Well, I mean, another reason would be just kind of, I don't want to say cornering the market, but being the go-to company. Like if they're big, people go to them instead of somebody else. And also the bigger they get, this ties back to what I was saying before, the bigger they get, they have that algorithm that works off of all the information of all the people and becomes even more secure the more information it has. So the bigger they get, they're providing even better security for all of their existing companies, or customers.
I guess the more people they have, wasn't it then that they got a lot of customers from word of mouth?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I guess the bigger they grow, the faster they'll grow because they get more word of mouth.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Okay, so if we're going down these bullet points, Okay, we've already kind of discussed the second to the last one. Okay,
So
do they have economies of scale?
yes. Well, I guess not a decrease, or marginal cost decrease with increase of cost. I would almost say yes, because like since they have to pay the set amount for like bandwidth or whatever, no matter what, they're going to have to pay that set amount. So if they have more customers that are paying the $20 a month, then that marginal cost will decrease, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would think yes.
That makes sense. Does Cloudflare have network effects? So more customers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was that thing I was just talking about. The more customers that are using it, it builds their. I don't know how to explain it right. It builds their security service better.
Right.
The more people they have attached.
They're able to update the security service.
What was that, Marshall?
Oh, I'm just saying that they're able to update their security service. The more people that use it, because the more people use it, the more attacks they will get.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, so the third one, they don't have high switching costs, right? Isn't it pretty painless for people to switch over to them?
Yeah, it's completely painless. It's like 5 minutes worth.
Yeah, and it's not expensive either. I mean, it's free or $20 or something like that. So, okay. And we kind of discussed the reasons why they would want to get big fast.
So why not?
Why not? If they're understaffed, they wouldn't want to get big.
Or if they don't have a well staff put together.
And we can see from the fact that 5 people quitting shows that they're not ready to grow big.
Yeah, because if they quit from whatever they're at now, if they grow faster or bigger faster, then the 30 employees left would be under even more stress.
Yep.
But, I mean, the problem they are facing is if they don't grow big or bigger, then they're still going to be at their $3 million deficit.
Mm-hmm.
And so
they're going to have to get that funding or staffing.
Yep.
If they can't staff this thing, they're screwed. So they got to staff. I think that's what I wrote for my individual thing was the areas had to be, a better conversion rate and better staffing. Otherwise, they're going to have unhappy employees. But anyway, that's kind of getting into. Let's go to just jump to number 6. So the resignations. I say we do the Reader's Digest version of that. So I kind of felt they needed to implement changes of structure instead of having it a free for all. It seemed like there were a few resignations that complained about or at least one that complained about, who do I go to for this? And there's not like a real clear hierarchy, and then you can't talk to the CEO. They go through the CFO or CTO or whatever she was. So if you're bringing on more people, if you've got a structured, I know a lot of the employees like the non-structure, but it seemed to kind of be hurting them as they got bigger. Like if they want to get big, they need to put some structure there. Because what were like the main reasons? The main reasons was like the one guy was spending too much time. He was like on that 24-hour hotline thing or whatever. He was missing time with his family. The hours seemed to be the big killer, right?
Yeah, so because they were saying like it was going off every 8 minutes within that time that he was on.
Yeah.
And so like pretty much saying that they need to get an automation like an automated call thing in there.
Yeah, and they were talking about getting that done, but just never got around to it.
And then they were going to hire someone like in Asia to cover the rest of the time zones, but the guy over hiring couldn't find what he wanted because he had super high standards.
Yeah. And then the next guy, Dave Conrad, was one of those hires of opportunity. And it just seemed like they never got around to using him for what he was meant to be used for. They hadn't quite gotten where they needed to be. So he felt like he was just spinning his wheels there, not really adding a whole lot of value. And both of those guys got the cord before their stock had value.
Yeah, the David guy was pretty much saying that they were growing too fast to not take care of the problems that they needed to. Like they're choosing to just keep the problem instead of backing up and figuring it out.
Yeah. What were you saying, Marsh?
The company, I can see why they didn't want to focus on that, just because like, out of all their priorities, like quality seems to be top notch. Like as soon as the attacks came, they would update their systems to prevent those attacks. And so it just seemed to me that like their entire focus was on quality. And like if you look at things like sales was lacking, infrastructure was lacking, everything else in the business was lacking. Because David Vicar was talking about how his position was pretty much worthless just because they weren't making hardly any money. They were focusing on making any money.
Yeah.
But I can see why all those people just quit.
Yeah, then the third guy, let's see. It seemed like he also a hire of opportunity, I think. I'm trying to think what they hired him for. To evaluate monetization opportunities. And that's the thing. They weren't monetizing anything, and they didn't figure on monetizing anything until they absolutely had to. And so he was kind of a wheel spinner as well. He felt they really needed to pursue monetization, and they were just kind of, like I said, they didn't feel like they wanted to do it until their burn rate was too high or whatever. Instead of kind of, to me, that's a little scary. I would think they'd want to get into that to cut off their burn rate. But what do I know?
Well, I think it's really funny because the owner of the company is just like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about that until our burn rate's super high. And I mean, considering they're losing $3 million, and he's not like, oh, that's a super high burn rate. You have to question his, this is not the right question his ability to actually run the company. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that guy's still putting in long hours. Like it seemed like he was having to get something ready for just in case, but they still weren't using it. And he was complaining about the fact that like the two owners basically live across the street and are there early and they're late, and it's like an undue pressure on him to put in the long hours, not be with his family and whatnot. He has the long commute and what have you. But he's frustrated because he wants to get the monetization going. The owner says the stuff you're going to build will disrupt huge markets. If you're going to poke the giant in the eye, make sure you're as big as possible. But still, anyway. Do we go to number? You guys have anything else? You want to go to number 7?
Yeah, we can go to number 7.
Should they implement more process and structure, like hire a VP and HR and all that, and using titles?
Yeah.
I voted yes on that.
Yeah.
Okay. What about slow down growth? Yes or no?
Honestly, that one's not really their choice, because if you look at like all the people using the premium, it's still growing. And so to a point, growing is not there.
But I mean, should they slow it down on purpose?
I don't think so.
Like, it will be very hard to slow it down on purpose. Their goal should not be necessarily to slow it down, but get those premium people to switch over to the premium so they can keep up their growth rate.
Yeah. So if we put in structure, it says what will happen to the culture, motivation of current employees, and what will happen to the cost structure and profitability of the company. Current employees, there may be some that may be a little miffed at the prospect of finally divvying out titles, but they're at a point of growth where I don't think they have any choice. They could still get the employees, input on all of that so that they don't feel slighted. But as long as they grow controlled and with enough people to manage it, I think their profitability will be good. If you can hear that in the background, I apologize. It's my little, I guess they're my great nephews. It's my niece's twins.
Okay, so do you want to move on to the next?
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, crap. I need to get my charger. Hold on. Yeah, we can move on to rent choose.
Okay, so we're supposed to vote individually. Should David raise the money now? Yes or no? I personally would say yes.
What do you think, Marshall?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was a yes to.
It's true, they don't need the money right now, but if they were to raise the money, then they would be able to finance, be really well set to compete with the new company.
Yeah, that's.
They're having to compete against, and they'd be able to get the new program out that they were working on.
That's. I remember reading that now. Yeah, he could set up a whole new team because they still want to kind of perfect what they're doing, and so he was worried about moving away from rent juice. It was going to be too quick moving into the real time or whatever. But yeah, if they get financed, then they can set up a whole nother team doing the real time thing and keep working on their rent juice model. What did you think, Marshall?
I agree.
Okay. Okay, and then the bottom of number 1, why do investors care about customer lifetime value and customer acquisition costs and sales conversion data? I had said your customer lifetime value has to far exceed what your customer acquisition costs are. If somebody's going to invest in that, I think it's something to the tune of they don't want customer acquisition costs to exceed like 10% of what the lifetime value of a customer is. If you only have a customer that's going to last 1 year, but and you make $240 off them, but it costs you $2,200 to to acquire them, and it doesn't make sense. Not a business fund.
Yeah, like I know that like customer acquisition costs are way more than actually keeping a customer. So yeah, I can see why people would want to care about the customer lifetime value.
Yeah. So that was kind of the number two is where I kind of struggled when I was working on this by myself. I was trying to figure out what the customer lifetime value was of a red juice customer, using that information right there, because that's all the information that they give in the case study too.
So I actually Googled how to calculate like the customer lifetime value.
Yeah, and it's what they're paying times the amount of time that you expect to have them as a customer. Right?
That's I don't know.
Like the simplified version is like if you have somebody that's paying a subscription and it's $20 a month, and you count on them, being there for 3 years as a customer, that's your churn rate or whatever. Then you're $240 a year over 3 years. It's $720. Did I just do that math right? No, 246. Yeah, 720. Did I do that right? Whatever, $700. I don't know what it is. Yeah. But that's how you would figure the customer lifetime value. But then they give some numbers in here, like, see, it says the monthly revenue per customer is $440. And that's what I was trying to figure out, how many customers they.
Well, and so that's why, the calculation that I got was that you take the average order value divided by 1 minus the repeat purchase rate. So with that, you would take the 440 and divide that. I'm assuming annual churn means repeat customer. Is that what that is?
So it means 38% of the customers leave annually.
Yeah, that's what it is. The churn is they're losing 38% of the people every year. I mean, obviously they're acquiring more customers, but out of all their customers each year, 38% of them stop using them.
So on average, people last about 2.6 years. 12, 40.
On this particular one?
Yeah, well, on the information given in number 2.
Okay, so how did you come up with that?
Just 100 divided by 38 equals 2.6. So it's like if the churn rate is 25%, that's losing 25% of all your customers every year. So that means every 4 years, your customer bases should be completely different, because that equals 100%.
Okay.
Of the original. And so it just 100 divided by 25 is 4. So if you take the same concept and do 100 divided by 38, you get 2.
Gotcha.
Times that by the number of months. And you get 31, and you times that by the monthly revenue, and you just minus the CAC, and you should get the life value of.
Okay, well, but do we have to deduct the gross margin, or I mean, the what am I trying to say? What was I going to say? Well, so we've got the revenues 440, but we only use 75% of that, right? Because that's the gross margin. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, so at least 25% is at least.
So we would use 330 times the 31 months, right? Okay, so that would be 10,230 as the CLV, and then 2,300 is the CAC. So okay, that makes sense.
Would it be minus the gross margin from that?
Well,
workplace?
I'm not 100% positive that that's what you use to figure the CLV. What did it say on that formula again, Catherine? What did it say anything about whether it was gross margin or just total revenue?
Yeah, so it's the total revenue you can expect to get from each customer.
Oh, okay.
Divided by 1 minus the repeat purchase rate. And then you use that and subtract your customer acquisition cost from that to get a customer lifetime value.
Okay. Well, I think if we do the 440 divided by, the 440 times you said 31 months, right?
Yeah, it's roughly 31 months.
That's 13,640. 15,640. So that's it's basically a 17%. What do I want to say? Total of the two are 17%, or what? Or the difference in the two is 7. I don't know how to say what that answer is. But the CAC 17% of their CLV. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, that all makes sense now. Do we go to 5? Well, we're going a long time. The sale funnel, is it working at Rent Juice?
No.
I thought it was a little on the weak side based on that.
2 subscribers out of 100 qualified leads.
Yeah, to me that was a lot of work.
Right.
Apparently they hired somebody to better that, but I thought that was a lot of work because that was qualified leads. That wasn't even just like 100 people. So how would they reduce their customer acquisition costs? Offer incentives to people that are already using the programs to provide referrals?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, also you could do what a new insurance company is doing. So the new car insurance company is, if you have a bad driving record, they won't sign you up. And so how it works is they lower the cost because they're not paying anything for for fixing cars. And so what they could do to lower their acquisition costs is they can review the renters, and if they're not good renters, they can just not let them use their program. And so the only people that are staying with the program are the people that are willing to rent for more than 2.6 years, if that makes sense.
Well, but this program's for like realtors and landlords and brokerage firms, right? It's not for the actual people renting.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
This is like trying to get all the people that are providing the properties
I mean,
a way to promote their property.
He's still kind of on the right path because you could still do that with the brokers. Say they would have to sign a 3-year agreement to use the app or whatever, or something like that.
So they weren't using contracts currently, right?
Right. I think it was a month by month or whatever.
Yeah. I actually thought it wasn't too bad of an idea. I was kind of shocked that it was so hard for them to get people to sign on, because how they were explaining it, like doing all the paperwork and like everything's so disjointed, disconnected in the rental world, that having like a one-stop shop place to provide rental information as well as all the documents needed, and that all is all bundled together. I thought that was a pretty good idea. But oh well. Well, should we go to 6?
Yeah.
So new competition. How should they respond?
I definitely think that they should like be on the offensive and very proactive about it. But they're already on the right path of getting the new program out, because they had stated something to the effect of like getting that program out would put them ahead of their competition pretty much.
I felt that they should only do it if they're going to take money, if they're going to do some fundraising and build a new team to go over that, because it seemed like they still had some unfinished business left with their original company. And so it may
Well, the company's
cost them
not
some
changing,
success.
they're just adding stuff, like adding a new section.
Correct, but it takes their focus away from fine-tuning Rent Juice, and they just made it sound like, or to me, they made it sound like they were a little squirmish about moving on to something else until something had been kind of perfected. That was like one of the guys on the team, the guy that calls himself Z. He was worried about them kind of jumping into this just because of existing competition. But again, what do I know? So, okay. Well, should we just go to what we actually have to do?
Yeah, that'll work.
Let's see here.
Okay, so it's kind of set up into 4 questions. 2 for the Rent Juice and 2 for Cloudflare. So, I mean, it kind of works if we just want to try to leave Kenny out totally. There's 1A and then 1B and then 2 and 3.
Well, if you want, I could cover Kenny and just do all of number 1.
Well, no, what I'm saying is 1A would be one section, 1B, because there's 5 of us. So 1A is a section, 1B is a section, 2 is a section, and 3 is a section. And so leaving Kenny off would give each of us one of those sections.
Okay. Well, okay, so we need to be about, oh no, we need to be 500 words apiece, right?
Yeah, about that.
Okay. Um, uh, I I don't care really. I mean, I could choose something, but unless you guys feel strongly about one or the other.
Well, this has nothing to do with that, I guess. I would almost say we could be closer to 1,500 because 1A, there's not going to be a lot of like discussing. That's like the calculations and the table and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like since you can't really talk a lot about that question, we wouldn't have to hit 2,000. But that's just me.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're being too sticklerish on the 2,000. They just want it to be pretty thorough.
I don't think we hit 2,000 last week.
Last week?
I think we did.
Did we? Because I know I didn't hit my 400.
I overshot. I think I was like 600 or 700 words.
Yeah, I got over 300 too. And for the past couple of weeks, we consistently, I know one of them we hit like 4,000, not 4,000. Yeah, it was like 10 pages long. It was like 4,000 words. It was ridiculously long. Sorry for people to do, but we've hit consistently way over our limit.
And we got a perfect score on the DeVita case. What do you know?
Oh, sweet.
I don't even remember that one now, but whatever. Well,
I can take 1B or 2.
Okay.
But I would prefer 1B because 2 has to be done, I think, before 3 can be done. And I don't like to be on a constraint like that.
3, well, we have to decide. 3 is in response to what we decide to 2. So if we decide as a group right now, do they or do they not do structure, or what do they do with their growth rate, then that person can now answer number 3. So structure or no structure? I vote structure.
Sure.
Yeah, I vote structure.
Okay. I was saying no on the slow. I was going to say no on the slowdown unless they're not willing to hire more. If they're willing to hire more, then they just keep on with their growth. That's how I was thinking of it. Do you have a preference, Marshall?
I wanted them to have slow growth. Sorry, fast growth.
You said you wanted what?
Sorry, let me read the question. No, they did not slow down growth.
So you want them to keep their growth going?
Yeah.
Well, do you have a preference on, Catherine, if you want 1B, that's fine with me. Do you have a preference on one, Marshall?
I can, well, I mean, 2's kind of already done. We just need to state that in 3.
Well, I mean, obviously two are technically yes and no questions, but they can be written describing what goes on and the reasons for either option and what we choose to go with. So I mean,
That's the first question of number 3, though. Discuss what will happen under your recommendation.
Sorry, what was that, Marshall?
So our answers to number 2 are the first question of number 3. So the first question, number 3, will explain why we chose yes and no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Well, I mean, yes and no, like, because we could just do pro cons of each. option.
Yeah,
Number
but
two.
inevitably, in doing those pros and cons, we would be discussing, whichever one we chose would get fulfilled there. Your video went away, Catherine.
Oh, okay.
She's like a picture of you on there now. Are you seeing that too, Marshall?
What?
Okay. Let's see.
Okay, so we just need to decide who wants
So, honestly, if you wanted to create a pro and con sheet and just do the first question on number 3, then I'll talk about what will happen to the culture and the cost structure of the company.
Okay, so discuss what will happen to the company under your recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then you're going to do what happens to the culture and motivation as well as what will happen to the cost structure.
Yeah, based on.
Okay, so I take two in the first question of number 3, right? Am I understanding you?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll give 1A to not Kenny, Zach.
Well, I mean, we've already done 1A. Honestly, that's what we discussed already. It was the 17%.
Well, the thing is, someone still has to put together a table and show the work and whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, he could put together a table and discuss, rather than just having the math up there, discuss where the information came from, something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, so should we just do that then?
Works for me.
Okay, well then I'll send out the text with the assignments so that Zach knows what they are. And then Catherine, are you cool submitting this meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys.
I just started a Google Docs.
All right. Yeah, something else?
Yeah, I'm creating the table for profitability that answers number 4. Because we never really did that in our group meeting, the one we're supposed to submit.
Oh, what?
My only thing, where do we submit that?
Huh?
Unless it's just thrown into the case. What show? That was for Cloudflare.
Well,
Well, because that's kind of in the realm of your question, right? How they plan to become profitable under our plan. I was a little confused on that. How we would create that table and figure out how long it would take them to become profitable. Did we even see in there what their current numbers are? Like, if they're in debt or anything like that?
So we know, based on their expenses, currently they are losing $3.05 million a year. And they said if 4% of the customer base was paying $20 a month, and they have a revenue of 4.8 million.
Yeah. That's right. Okay, I was confusing things again.
And so based on that, I don't know if it talked about their growth rate at all. That's what I'm going to be looking for. You can assume, if it doesn't say the growth rate, we can assume a growth rate of like 1% or so every like 3 months or so. goes on to premium, adding to their, I don't know, yearly revenue. And they then ask you to put new engineers. So I'm going to put a couple of variations of how many engineers.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, because obviously they give you, the cost per employee, right? The $150,000.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, to me, how the question reads, if we just add people, they're never going to be able to become profitable. Like something else has to change in the equation besides the addition of employees. They have to change their conversion rate, or they have to, do ads or they have to monetize something,
Yeah. And that's what we would kind of, I'm guessing, because it does talk about in the end of it.
Well, here, tell you what, if you want, let's see, how do I do this?
I mean, before you put in the work to do that table, we may just want to email him and ask him if it's something that actually needs to be turned in or not.
Well, what I'm doing is, crap. Hold on, give me 1 sec. I'm going to email over to you, or I guess it goes to everybody. Here we go. I'm emailing you, or emailing the whole group, that table that I worked up that shows, the number of their subscribers, and you can change any of those things, and it'll help compute what the profit could be. So I don't know if you want to use that table and say, if they change their conversion rate, this is what they get. If they up the amount of subscribers, then this is what they can do, taking, because you can fiddle around with the number of full-time employees on that as well. So if you want to use that table, feel free, if that helps.
Okay.
So you could think, if they take on 4 full-time employees, then they raise that, those expenses even more. I don't know if you guys know this. I just learned this for the first time. There's in the spreadsheet, there's a way to determine. I was going to say, there's a way to, you pick one cell and you can write what you want the goal to be for that cell, and then it'll change the numbers accordingly so that you reach that goal. Like originally I put the profit, I wanted my profit to be $1 million based off changing the conversion rate, and then it put in what the conversion rate needed to be in order to achieve the $1 million profit.
Was it what if analysis?
Yeah, you go under data and what if analysis. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, all right. Well, let's see. Do we think we're good then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I will put this back up. I'll send out the text, and then, Catherine, if you're cool to send the link, then that would be awesome.
Yep.
All righty, guys. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
All right.